Wow, alright folks, we're back and we're live once again. You are listening to Beyond Sight and Sound, metal detecting and treasure hunting radio for you, the always valued and appreciated listener. And it looks like we've already got people popping into the chat. Oh, let's see here. I see Craig M. Stryker, Suki is in, Cool Beans, Beer Barrel, SQ Engineer. Shout out to Jim down there in Florida. Swansea's in the house.
Swansea's always in the house.
Yeah, got quite a few people. And he has been able to make it. The Dirt Bandit is back with us tonight. How is it going, Kenny?
Man, I am glad to be back, and I want to just let everybody know it has been a black cloud on Wednesday nights for the Bandit. Of course, I had some traveling. We had some sickness a little bit, not myself. But last week, don't say lightning, don't strike twice, because it does. I watched my modem go in pieces. Little Mr. Bandit was over here freaking out. DirecTV went, and that was it. But I am back. And if lightning strikes twice tonight, it better get me the first time, because I'm not going anywhere.
Oh, lightning is striking. Shout out to Homefinder in the house, and Ringfinder appears in the chat.
Nice. Ringfinder, Swansea, Suki, Craig Stryker, or Swans, man.
Ringfinder has just about been gone almost as long as you, Kenny.
You know what? I think he's sneaking off somewhere and probably digging some relics and just kind of maybe keeping it to himself. I don't know. He'll remark on that in a minute.
That's a good possibility. And talking about people in the house, the presence is strong with Detect America tonight.
Yes.
Got the
I called out our troops, told them to tune in.
Awesome. Got the double shot going on, Beyond Sight and Sound, with WNL following, and obviously, as listeners can hear, you should recognize that voice. It is none other than Frank Lopergolo, Detect America. How is it going, Frank?
It's going good. It's going good. It's beach season, so we're up early and out hitting the sand.
Welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you very much, guys.
Yes, definitely welcome to the show. We appreciate you taking the time to sit down and discuss this interesting topic of electrolysis tonight. And for the listeners who saw the promo, one lucky listener could be walking away with a Detect America in-series electrolysis unit.
You're kidding. Man, it don't get any better, man. Come on.
And it's everything that you need to get yourself started.
And you know what, Josh?
It will come with a small packet of mix for the brine solution, as well as some carbon bits and pieces, and the unit itself. All you need is to get out there and find the relic that you want to try and preserve, and grab yourself some power.
That's right, but first, they got to register on Beyond Sight and Sound. Listen to this show, that's all it takes.
Yeah, it doesn't get much easier than that, really. But that's all right. Nothing wrong with that. I guess let's start out letting those who may not realize your background in electrolysis, Frank, maybe give them a rundown how long you've been in the hobby and how long you have been involved with electrolysis, because you have been involved in it quite extensively.
Detecting 29 and a half years, April 6th of 86? I can't remember now. So about 87 or 88. A friend of mine showed me an article on, and I believe it was Popular Mechanics, it may have been Popular Science, about a gentleman who had built a rudimentary electrolysis unit using a dustbuster. And I instantly built one, and it worked great. It turned everything orange, but it worked awesome. So from there, it piqued my interest. It's been my pet project since then. I started digging as a specialist for University of Pennsylvania around 2003, 2004. And we just started, I kept bringing it into the conversations. At that period of time, the colleges, the museums had gone away from it. They had used electrolysis in the late 60s, early 70s. They used it because it was a tremendous stabilizing, medium. But as their preservation methods got better, they didn't like the color. They have coins that, basically they all turned the same color. They were an orangish color, and they kind of went away with it. So it became my pet project, the University of Pennsylvania, and I'm sorry to all my coin collectors who are going to kill me, but they funded several thousands of coins, and I'm talking from 17th century through modern day, that we experimented with. We would cook them. We would cut them in half. We definitely destroyed many, many, many coins. But where we're at today with basically our electrolysis Bible is probably the furthest we've come along, and doing it properly, maintaining color. And if you can't maintain the color because you have to preserve it first, we are learning now how to bring that color back to it. So much to the point where we've actually got several dug coins carded. Not because we were trying to beat the carding companies, but because we needed to see, that we were right. We were right with the color. We were right.
Just how good are we doing? That makes sense.
So I'm in it 25, 26 years and experimenting and developing with the college for a good 10, 12 years now.
Wow, that's awesome. There's a lot of new detectorists. You would be surprised because I've seen it. You mention electrolysis to them, they're kind of like, what? They think that you just made an insult to their hairline. I'm like, no, man. It's good that we have these shows like this to talk about this. Josh has actually talked about having an electrolysis topic for a long time. And Frank, man, you're the right one for this show. We appreciate it.
They've been some of our most lively shows that we've had here. Let's put it that way.
Well, and really, electrolysis is an intriguing subject for people in the hobby. Some people are very confused of it because of the terminology. Some people out there get their terminology mixed up, and then next thing you know, you're cooking your coin or your button the wrong way.
And that, you know what, Josh? And we specifically, as we developed this and we started putting out the videos, not that, we have the right to change the terminology, but we're trying to streamline the terminology. Negative and positive is based on your power source, as opposed to Faraday, who would take the negative lead off of a battery source and it would change to a positive lead in the tank. We try to stay as basic. We want to make this as easy to understand as it could possibly be, and take away a lot of the wives' tales that come along with this stuff.
Exactly. And I think you guys have done a very good job in that aspect. I've read the PDF files on the Detect America website about the electrolysis units, proper way to use it, and you've explained it very well. And even on the units, everything is clearly marked. Nothing's confusing.
Right.
I mean, you even mark it. I believe the actual negative post on the electrolysis unit isn't necessarily marked as, cathode, anode, negative, anything like that. It's marked coin.
And we were marking them. We were marking them anode and cathode. And then, and I wish I could remember her name. She's a longtime member of Detect America. She was the one who brought the Faraday article out and said, well, this is wrong. I think so. From that point on, we changed it. No more anode, cathode. It is coin, and it is cat for catalyst.
Right.
Nice.
And I think that definitely alleviates a lot of confusion for people.
Right. And Josh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Guys, listeners, check Frank's videos out because I watched a couple of them a while ago. They're very informative. If you've got any questions, I'm sure he's easy to find. We'll get to that at the end of the show. But, do your homework. We were talking earlier. There's a trick to electrolysis. I mean, there's do's and don'ts, pros and cons. Try your metals out first. Novice metals. Don't put a button in your first time and say, well, let's see how this is going to work. Do your homework.
And we tell everybody, it almost sounds counterproductive, but when you're starting off, when you're doing your own experimentation, and we encourage it, you know what? That's how we learn. That's where we're going with this is going to develop. But everybody prizes their silver coins, and nobody wants to touch their silver coins. And the fact of the matter is, guys, if you have silver coins, they're the safest thing that you can experiment with. You're not
Right.
going to tarnish it. You're not going to break. All you're going to do is clean. You don't even have to stabilize silver. It never gets unstable. But if you have silver to play with, that's the safest. Don't go throwing your half cents in there. Don't start off trying to cook the copper. Start off with, and don't ever try to cook, start off with nickels.
Nickels are very, very difficult.
Yeah, listen, at 25 years, I'm trying to come up with a formula 100% of the time for nickels, and I'm at about 10% of the time with nickels.
Yeah, you never seem to know which way it's going to turn. One time it could be good, and you say, hey, that worked great, let's do it again, and then you look at it and go, God, what happened?
That's my number one question. My number one question is always nickels. And it's just, the problem with nickels are that it's the phenomenon of electrolysis that can turn a nickel. It doesn't matter your voltage, it doesn't matter your amperage, doesn't matter your catalyst metal, your brine solution. The process can and will turn it, 75% of the time.
Right. And if you got one that's messed up, save it. Show your buddy. Because
exactly.
They save him a headache. Something else, too. I got Tar Heel digging here in the chat.
I was just going to mention that, too.
How can we purchase a DA electrolysis kit? Is there a website?
The website is detect-america.com. The store is on there. The units are on there. However, anybody that wants to purchase one of our units and listening to the show tonight, don't go to the website. Go to the website, look at what we have there. Contact me through my PM, and you guys are getting 20% off it. Period. End of story. We don't make them. We don't sell them to get rich. It's never the case. The ugly box, as we call them, came into existence simply because we were cutting the prices. We did them at one time, the exact same kind of units in a real pretty prefab box, and the price was 4 times as high. So that's why we call it the ugly box, just for that reason, and we'll take 20% off whatever the prices are in the website.
Now, do they need to mention something in that message for you to know that they're coming from the broadcast?
Tell me in that message that you listen to Josh's show, and we'll take care of you.
Nice.
Well,
and you know what? That's your new logo now, if you want. We don't sell them to get rich. We sell them to preserve history.
That's right. That's it. It was never about trying to make $1 million selling electrolysis units, because if that was the case, I'd be bankrupt a long time ago.
Right.
And really, I must say, I do have one of the DA electrolysis units, and really, they're not that ugly.
I'm getting better with my production.
When you watch the transfer over to the stainless, it gets prettier, as it goes. As something else, Frank, I got a question for you.
Sure.
I got a buddy of mine on certain buttons. I'm not an expert at it, like you are, but I know what I'm kind of doing. But what I have found is I have a buddy that works at a certain plant, and I use hydrochloric 1 to remove ground action on a lot of buttons. I find it to be effective. Just your take on that. If you've heard of that, have you ever used it?
We have guys that will use a type of hydrochloric acid. Some of these guys will use Tarnex, which is a derivative, even concentrated acetic acid. Here's my problem. This is my mantra. Like I said, we are not the electrolysis police. When it comes to artifacts, I'm pulling an artifact out of the ground. The most that we're going to do to polish that artifact is if it's a button, we will brush it very gently during the process, wet with brass brush. I'm not looking to take out the scratches. And anything that is petroleum based, anything that is acidic, the rule of thumb that we teach our students is that if there's acid in the name, don't use it on something you want to keep. The problem is that if you can't completely remove that acid,
right, you have to be able to stop the process, or it still continues.
The problem is that many types of acid will impregnate the metal immediately on contact. And even if you were to sterilize this thing, even if you were to scrub this thing, you can't stop the impregnation, and that process can't be reversed. So even though there are acids that will completely dissolve away, that will completely evaporate away, they won't leave residue, now we're into the weight. Now we're trying to separate 10,000 different kinds of acids. There's more bad ones out there than there are good ones, so it becomes dangerous for us to try and say, this one is a good one. As a rule, the effect that we want with the process we develop, and the acids we kind of put to the wayside. when it comes to historic artifacts.
Well, I started using it because if I got stuff going on, and like with the electrolysis, this stuff, I watched the guy use it. It worked. What it does, the hydrochloric, now it's key. The 101 is key. That's the number. And what it does, all I do with that is I put it in for 10, 15, 20 seconds, however long it takes. All it takes off is the ground action. That's all I'm trying to, that's my goal.
Now you're saying ground action. You're talking about surface anomalies, or you're talking about patinization, or you're talking about dirt?
That's surface anomalies. Anything, if it was, let's say it was around some iron, for example, got some iron, a little bit of iron on it, the hard pack that's on there, it'll clean it off, and it does a pretty good job. I'll try to post a couple of buttons to you later about that, but electrolysis is by far the way to go when it's done right.
Yeah, and it's not a fast process. In fact, the N series that we developed here is specifically designed to slow the process. The EMAGs that we put in, which was a big development with us at the college, because Faraday himself said you can't create an electric magnet on a DC circuit. And the fact of the matter is that we kind of found a way to do that, and it doesn't really harm the voltage. It only arrests the amperage, and this is going to, no matter what voltage you're putting into it, it's going to hinder the amperage and create a slower process. So, are there chemicals out there that you can put on this thing that's going to clean it quickly? Absolutely there are. There's a ton of chemicals out there that'll clean it quickly. But from where we approach electrolysis, and if I was to go to one of the museums that have our units and say, we're going to try this acid, no matter how safe this acid is, we're done with them. We are rebuilding bridges now to the people who used to use it and have condemned it, and now we're trying to bring it back. So it's a very tiptoe around situation of what we say and how we approach cleaning their artifacts for them.
And that's outstanding. And you can tell by how you're talking that, and for the listeners, get yourself electrolysis, learn how to use it, hook up with Frank, because in the end, that's the way you want to preserve your history.
And I just wanted to say one thing, because there's naysayers out there. One of the criticisms we get is, oh, you guys are trying to sell electrolysis units. That's why go to the YouTube page, guys. Matter of fact, there's a link I just posted on the page. It's Detect America's Basic Safe Electrolysis. It is a 100% free. If you don't have, you don't have to buy a safe electrolysis unit.
That's a good point. You even show them how to build it.
Exactly. We build the ones and sell the ones for those who don't want to go through the hassle of building it. But the directions to build a safe, free electrolysis unit is on the pages.
Right.
Very
so,
nice.
That shows you right there. You're not in it to make money.
Nah.
In it to preserve the history the correct way.
Right. Speaking of preserving history the correct way, another person very passionate about the history, Dave Wise, is in the house.
I see that.
Big
Mr. Dave. Oh, and Swansea Searcher says, please let me know when the phones are open. He has a question.
Well, Swansea knows he can call any time, and for those interested, the call-in number is 419-549-5744. Also, if you're in the live chat, look up above at the top of the screen, and you'll see the number there.
Outstanding.
Another thing I think we should probably touch on real quick is that it is key. Amperage is your enemy when it comes to electrolysis.
Big time, and that's the biggest misconception that people have. They don't. You can almost, I won't say completely, but you can almost disregard what the voltage is, because if you can get 100 volts into a tank at a half a milliamp, 500 milliamps, God bless you, you're going to get the job done more efficiency. The higher the voltage, actually, the better. The problem is getting voltages with extremely low amperages. That's the biggest deal. And I've got guys, I'm running a battery charger. Well, you know what? When you're doing larger iron artifacts, you're safer doing that than others. But just as an example of what we do, we have a short cannon from General Lee's Army, dug up in Monterey Pass, Pennsylvania, in I think it's a 1,500-gallon tank, 1,700-gallon tank, and we're literally running 9 volts at 3/4 of 1 amp. Wow. And that's what we're cooking that cannon with.
Now, how long have you been cooking that?
That cannon has been in, out, for the better part of 3 years.
Wow.
And that's at 9 volts.
Yeah.
9 volt at 3/4 of an amp. Now we're doing the experiment with it. We've been doing an experiment for the past year where we built a series of timers, which will kick on and kick off and kick the amperage up. Again, kick the amperage back down, the wattage, voltage, I'm sorry. Kick the voltage back up, kick the voltage back down. And what we're finding is that staggering effect is actually going a long way in peeling off some of the heavy debris. It's a bronze cannon, and a lot of people think bronze is a precious metal. Bronze is probably the biggest pain in the butt that there is. But so far, this seems to be working pretty good with it.
Ah.
You know what? It may take 3 years. It may take another one, but that cannon's going to look good.
And it's going to go back. The college acquired it after some painstaking work. We acquired it from the ATF, who immediately seized it because there's numbers on it. And the Monterey Pass is just about through the process of becoming a national park. And once they do, and we are finished with this cannon, it will be part of the national park.
Now, do you, on your iron, whether it's cannonballs, anything like that, do you wax them afterwards?
The key phrase, you said the key phrase, I get asked this all the time, and guys tell me that they like paraffin wax. After the fact, it doesn't matter. As long as it's been processed prior to. I personally don't wax it, because no matter what you do with iron, the surface most layer of the iron is going to start to pattenize again. And if you seal it with wax, what happens is you contain that degrade. And eventually, it may take 100 years, but eventually it's going to start to pop through. And when it pops through the waxes, because wax is airtight, it's going to cause more damage. Now, it may not even cause it in your lifetime, but the potential for that process is there.
The potential is there. We're
well, I asked
joined
that
by
question.
Swansea.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
How you guys doing tonight?
Good.
Right.
Swans, how's it going, buddy?
I'm doing good. Frank, I got a question for you.
Sure.
I've seen you electrolyze or electrolysis with lard cents and coppers and things like that.
Yes.
What about a clipped one where the base metal's already exposed? Will that cause any extra damage?
Swansea, I couldn't hear what kind of target you were talking about.
Like a large cent.
Let's say a lard cent, a clipped lard cent where the base metal's already exposed.
Here's the deal with a large cent, and I tell everybody, not every coin that comes out of the ground is a candidate for electrolysis. Depending on the detail, if you pull a large cent out of the ground, this sucker's been in the ground for 150 years, 100 whatever years, and you have tremendous detail left on it. You can see, even if it's covered with dirt, but you know that there's tremendous detail left on this thing. I would clean it, gentle soap and water, and I would not electrolyze it. Copper strikes and bronze strikes, like a half cent, you can tell the condition of the core of that coin specifically by the detail that's on that coin. If it's got a ton of detail, if it's not flaking any place and turning to powder to the touch, that coin is probably not needed to go into an electrolysis tank. If the detail is gone, if you get that crusty finish that seems to be adhered to the surface of that large cent, then cook it, because it doesn't matter. Even if, don't worry about the color to begin with, worry about the stabilization. That coin is what we critical mass breakdown. It'll reach a point underground where you cannot reverse the process unless you have external forces. And cleaning it and soaking it in olive oil and coating it with whatever is just not going to do it. But the process is slow. Always start your large cents off at 5.5 volts, which is, I say 5.5 volts because it's the easiest power pack to get a hold of. Your cell phone charger is 5.5 volts. Very, very low. Always try and cook it with carbon to start off with. Carbon will not plate. Carbon does not produce noxious gases, and it will simply clean and stabilize the core. From there, depending on the color, then that's what we have the videos for. You can tweak the color. If you have to shock this sucker to save it, and it turns that orangish color, copper's great because we can always bring the color back on copper. But you can't always save it if it's too far gone.
Frank,
right, but does it make a difference if the coin is actually cut?
If it's cut?
Correct. Like if you find a regular large cent, say a matron hen, that's cut in half for currency, is it more of a candidate to get ruined because the exposed metal is already there, or is it still just as well?
Absolutely not. In fact, that cut coin is going to go through the process faster because the core is exposed. The idea, remember, you don't care about the surface. When you're first starting electrolysis, the surface is the least of your problems. You need to get the electrolysis through the center of the coin. That's where that coin is breaking down. That's why the molecular bond of that coin is falling apart. You need to re-energize that. So if that coin is cut in half, you've got a direct path right through the center of that coin, which is going to probably cut your electrolysis time in half.
All right.
That's it. You really nailed what I was just asking, Frank.
Well, I tell you what, guys, you can listen to Frank talk. You already know by now he knows exactly what he's talking about. And, there's certain questions. When I ask a question, Frank, if it's not from the chat, it's from people I've talked to before.
Right.
And there's different ones. The amp is an issue because you got to be careful even with a bayonet.
Absolutely.
Really, to me, I want it to look old. But if it needs some work, what condition is that relic when you pull it out of the ground? If that bayonet is already pretty much torn to pieces, in your opinion, because I look at it and I'm like, man, if I put that in there, I may lose the tip. I may lose the back end of it because it's already chewed. In your opinion, how do you handle that issue?
Well, and this is a big-time argument that we have with the museums, especially at the college level museums, especially the colleges in Pennsylvania, because we have so much Civil War and Revolutionary War history, bayonets and old cannonballs and things along those lines come in quite a bit. Here's my point. If that tip of that bayonet has pitted and rotted to the point where it's falling off, remember how thin that is relative to the rest of that bayonet. Well, consider that tip the core of that bayonet. And if it's reaching critical mass breakdown, which means that once it's hit the oxygen, once it's been removed from the ground, the oxygen is accelerating the process. So even if you don't want to clean it, even if you're not looking to make it look new, the absolute cleaning and coloring of artifacts and coins is completely second to the stabilization. You can run it in short bursts for 15, 20 times, not really changing the color, but you're stabilizing the core. It's still going to look old, and if you're doing the burst short enough, you're not really taking off the patinization either. But the electricity going to the core of that thing is the most important thing that's going to make it last another 150 years for you. If you don't do it, and that thing is continually rusting away, it's doing the same thing on the thicker parts of that bayonet on the interior, on the core. That's what you have to stop. So we've done a lot of them where they still look great. They still look old. They still have rust on them because we didn't cook it long enough to clean the surface. We only cooked it long enough to get it through the core.
All right. Good. Great answer. This is stuff that, I had a buddy of mine that found a bayonet and it was curved. There's a lot of theories about that. Some of you did put it through the belts if they had to drag, the wounded or the dead. Some of them were for hanging pots. Yeah, pot holders, whatever the fact. It's history, the same as a bullet or anything else.
Right.
He electrolysed his, and when he took it out, it was a shame. It was basically destroyed. And to be in the ground that long, it makes me, I get pretty serious about it because I am big and passionate about preserving this history.
Well, destroyed color-wise, or did it fall apart on him?
It just fell apart.
Then here's the thing, and I tell this to a lot of people. Pay attention to those who are preaching the right way of doing this, because it's very, very simple to hook an anode and a cathode up in reverse. And if you hook an anode and a cathode up in reverse, it's gone. If they're hooked up properly, the target doesn't lose any molecules of any kind. It only gains them and recharges the existing ones. Now, you can change colors if you're going too fast with it, if you're using the wrong catalyst metal, but if it's hooked up properly and low voltage, low amperage, it's not going to fall apart. If that thing fell apart, you accelerated what we call the decrepito faster than was already happening.
No, that's basically what I told him. It was a shame that the part that actually hooks onto the musket,
right?
At least preserve that. The reason I'm asking these questions, listeners, man, I'm telling you, if you're starting out electrolysis and you don't have the knowledge, you're going to mess up. It's inevitable. So even when you're trying stuff out, I was telling Frank and Josh earlier, get just a piece of brass, get whatever, and do some experiments with it.
And we encourage that. Play with whatever. Listen, if you got an old Matchbox car, play with anything that you've got The process is going to be the same. And as a matter of fact, the more junk you play with, the more you're going to learn and become more confident and competent when it comes to dealing with something that actually has some intrinsic value to it.
Exactly.
Well, it is
because
science.
you could
It's
wind
down
up
to a
making
science.
some mistakes along the way, but that's how we learn.
But I don't want
Right.
I don't want people to get scared away. A lot of people get scared away. Electrolysis, guys, has been around for 5,000 years. That's the most amazing thing to me. When I started playing with this stuff to figure out that Egyptians, 3,000 to 5,000 years ago, somehow figured out how to put vinegar in a gourd and a base metal in there and create an electric circuit. That's brilliant enough. But then to figure out they could gold plate stuff with that thing 5,000 years ago is amazing to me. The process is easy. The process is basic. It's found in nature. The tweaking of it, remember, we're not doing a natural process. We are applying a natural process to man-made items. So we want to make them beautiful from our viewpoint. So that
Right.
the tweaking is where it's hard. The process, anybody can do it. No, positive, negative into a saltwater circuit, and you've got electrolysis. The problem is what the ancillary stuff is what'll kill you or win the day.
And basically what it comes down to is you're transferring action, you're transferring ground action, and so on without breaking the molecular structure
Yeah, you're
of the item.
trying
That's
to
your goal.
recharge. The reason stuff rusts, the reason stuff breaks down in the ground and falls apart is because the electrical bond that held it together for so many years is weakening. It's falling apart.
Right.
You don't have that molecular bond, then you can't hold together your bayonet or your coin or whatever. It's going to start rusting and falling apart and degrading away.
And a little off subject, but that's why I tell everybody, man, when you're out there digging, listen to your tones, get these buttons out of the ground, because I'm telling you, I can even tell the difference. They're not looking the same as they used to. Sure, you're going to find some good ones, but a lot of the brass buttons, the two-piece buttons, I'm telling you, another 10, 20 years, there won't be any.
Well, that's the thing, because we're so used to seeing brass in modern age. Brass today, we use it. Anything that is out in the weather, we use brass because it lasts forever. The problem is when brass is in the ground, the components of brass which make it last forever disappear. So when you pull this brass item out of the ground and it looks like tin, it is tin. That's all that's left to it, is the tin, because the other elements are gone now. So we're trying to save the tin, which is, if you're down to the tin already, it's on its way out. So you're simply trying to rejuvenate that bond and keep it from disappearing the rest of the way.
Right, preserve what's left.
Exactly.
Now, you may have said this already, but I'm just going to, I actually got a text on my phone for someone that's listening. They're not actually in the chat, but when you purchase and stuff, obviously there's a manual on do's and don'ts, maybe?
The manual is, well, the do's and don'ts are in the videos, and we try to be as specific and as broad of the possibilities you may run into on the videos. The manuals for all these units are posted. We don't even supply the manuals with the unit anymore. That's just another way we're cutting costs. Anybody can go to the website, can open up any of the manuals for any of the units. And again, if you're building one at home, you can go to the manuals to see different experimentations, different kind of catalyst metals. I explain catalyst metals for the specific targets of each video.
And it is in
because
a
I started
downloadable
with
PDF or viewable online.
Right, I started with a plastic bucket, stainless steel, and a battery charger.
Now, Kenny, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to yell at you. Okay? Stainless steel is a no-no, brother. You're going to wind up...
I'm talking a way back. I'm talking that when somebody else said, here's how I do it, cool, I'll try it.
Listen, I'm lucky I'm not there. I did stainless steel for 15 years before I realized it was creating chlorine gas and going to kill me.
Right. You know what? This is why we have you on the show, Frank. Great information, buddy.
Now, another good point would be that a lot of people, they just, they throw whatever into their solution they can get their hands on. And in all actuality, just your common table salt can actually be bad. You have to watch that. You have to make sure it's a non-iodized.
Right.
salt.
Iodine carries with it many characteristics of metal, which you don't want that in your brine solution anyway. Iodine will impregnate metal faster than anything that I know of. And the problem is you can use table salt and your coin may come out gorgeous. Well, what happens down the road, and it may be 6 months down the road, it may be a year down the road, you start to see these little purplish, pinkish blotches showing up on your coin. And if that happens, that coin is toast. You cannot arrest that process. You cannot re-electrolysize. You cannot get rid of it. So the easiest thing is to go get, so I use sea salt. You can use kosher salt or regular non-iodized. That's the key. No iodine in the salt.
What about baking soda? Because I know there's some out there that use it.
I mix it. I mix baking soda and I mix sea salt. And the reason I use baking soda is on top of the sodium solution, the sodium content of baking soda, there's a lot of other ancillary crap basically in it. It's not stuff that's going to hurt your coin, but it also helps to inhibit the flow. As much as I want that flow going through, I'm doing anything I can to slow that flow down.
Right.
So table salt wants to speed it up. The sodium in the baking soda wants to speed it up, and the other stuff in the baking soda helps to slow that current flow down.
All right, I got a question from the chat from Diggin' Chick. She says she's got a question. After I do my railroad spikes, do I need to put something on them? And she says, or a lock?
Me personally.
To seal it.
Me personally. When you're done your railroad spikes, when you're done your cannonballs, when you're done any of the heavier, denser iron objects, wash it, soap and water, and as dumb as I try to explain to everybody, toothpaste is awesome. It will neutralize any of the ancillary sodium that may be, residual sodium that may be on that iron object. Once it's all clean, you don't have to do anything to it. If you want that little bit of shine, I recommend mineral oil. It gives it a bit of protective coating, and the episurface is going to start to go south on you. That's the nature of iron. And with mineral oil, you can wash it off. You'll wash off that residue that's starting to break down on the episurface, and you can recoat it with mineral oil. It's the easiest thing to give you a nice sheen and to give you a little bit of protection. But if you're looking for something that's going to stop that rust from breaking down again, nothing will. It's going to, if you electrolysize it, it's going to last you another 200 years. You may dust it off. You may wash it off once in a while. You don't have to seal it. I don't like any kind of wax, any kind of petroleum product sealer, because if it starts to break down again, you
just trap it. Right. Okay. We have got several questions. The listeners are keying here. The chat. We appreciate all the listeners and everybody in the chat. So I want to get to these questions. Josh, if you need to do something, just interrupt any time. Okay. I have, how about washing soda? I don't know if they're talking about, soap powders or whatever.
There's a product
Mr.
out there
Dave
called
Weiss.
soda. And like I tell everybody, it's the soda part that contains the sodium. Washing soda is just as effective as using the baking soda. It may not be as sodium strong. So again, you can interchange washing soda with baking soda in the mix. My mix is 1 part, 1 to 2 or 1 to 3 sea salt to baking soda. You can interchange washing soda for that as well.
Man, I appreciate that answer, Frank. And I tell you what, somebody better have some pen and paper out, because there's a lot of knowledge flying around here. I mean, I know I'm writing stuff down that I don't know.
Almost everything that I'm saying here tonight, guys, is on those videos on YouTube. The basic electrolysis video contains a lot of this. Actually, I give you the recipe for my brine solution. If you miss it here, by all means, go check out the videos. Hit me up on the page. I'll be glad to answer. I probably do a couple hundred questions on electrolysis a week.
Yeah, we'll cover your YouTube and wherever you can be found here at the end. I have a really good question for you now. So Here we go. Mr. Tall here digging. How do you handle objects with multiple metals? I know the answer to this probably. For instance, an iron padlock from the 1800s with a brass keyhole cover.
Don't worry about the metals that are going to... Here's the thing with brass. If you do electrolysis on a brass item, you are going to turn it colors. You're not going to get this beautiful shiny brass all the time. You'll get blues, you'll get whatever. Worry about the degrading metals. Worry about the iron, the copper. Treat it for that. The brass can be polished. You don't have to worry about that. Just the stuff that's breaking down. Because you've all seen it. We've all found those brass lock covers. Where's the rest of the lock?
Right. Nice. Also, Mr. Bill, Ohio Relic Hunter, how about gun bluing for preserving? That's actually a good question.
And it is. Here's the deal. When I do gun barrels, I will blue them as opposed to mineral oil or anything like that. Bluing when you're doing a cannonball. And I get questions all the time. Well, if a cannonball is a solid shot cannonball, it's not going to rust on the inside. Well, no, we're not worried about it rusting on the inside. The changes in temperature will start that thing to break down all the way through. Gun bluing is going to treat the outside, and it does absorb, but not as far enough to get to the core of a cannonball. So yeah, for thin-walled stuff, I'll use gun bluing. For thick stuff that I know I'm not going to get to the core with that treatment, I'll leave it untreated or just basic mineral oil.
With your N-series units, they work very, very well for preserving buttons, coins, things of that nature. Have you, or I guess I should say, do you use them to preserve larger items, say a belt plate?
Yep, absolutely. The N-series, and don't forget, the N-series is the newest one. It is the highest end one. It slows the flow of electricity the most. The basic one, the one that you can build for free, low voltage, low amperage, low voltage meaning anything 12 or below. Time is what does the trick. Okay, if you use 3.5 volts with 250 milliamps of power, next to nothing, next to no current, it's going to treat. You can treat a cannon with it if you have it in there long enough. We want to stay low. We try to stay effective. 9 and 12 volts are really effective for big stuff. 0.5 milliamp, not going to be fast, guys, but it's going to treat it to the core.
That's a good point. It's got to be. We got to kind of treat it like we hunt. You know, slow and low is the best way.
And let me throw
my analogy, guys. My analogy. Imagine you have a knot hole in the tree or a knot hole in the fence, and you've got a water pistol, and you're trying to squirt the water through that hole. You can absolutely shoot that water into that hole almost 100% with a water pistol. Well, now try to get all the water from a fire hose through that same hole. It can't happen. And what happens is it splashes out, goes around the outside. Once you treat the outside before you treat the core, you're done. You can never get it back inside. Electricity will take the path of least resistance. It will go, and so that's why when we go slow, you'll actually see the bubbles progress along the coin, progress along the artifact. That's how you know you're getting to the core. If all of a sudden the whole coin is engulfed in bubbles, you might be treating just the outside. The inside's going to rot, and by the time you see that, it's too late.
Wow. I got a couple of things here, Josh, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Could you imagine having Mr. Frank here and Don Botting in the same room? I would have brain overload. Another thing is, Josh, you mentioned belt plates. This is my opinion on all plates. All I want to remove off of any plates at all is the dirt. That's it. I am going to get the dirt off of it. It's going in a display case because that is the way they should look to me.
Well, yeah.
Almost never do we do a belt plate, especially a Civil War belt plate. The only buckles you may find us doing are Revolutionary War, 1812 era, where some of them were iron. But belt plates are a wonderful animal. You've got, brass on the top or a copper strike on the top and lead on the bottom. Neither one of those, the brass and the lead aren't going to break down really too much.
Right. So, and I went on a roll at the beginning of the year when I was really good. I've had family issues. I'm about to start digging again and have some videos up, but I found 4 plates. And I believe what, Josh, a month?
Something like that. You were definitely on fire.
Yeah, and all of those plates, the patina on them, that's what just blows me away. To me, patina is nature's artwork.
Absolutely.
And that is a timestamp of any relic, and patina gets on other items as well. And I had a guy that I was actually hunting with says, "Are you going to clean those up?" I said, "I'm going to scrape the dirt off of them and put them in a display case."
The last belt plate that I cleaned, actually electrolyzed, was the one I found probably 60% of a face of a belt plate in New Hampshire, digging a farm field. And this is one of those brass items that sat in the ground for a long time. And when I pulled it out, it didn't even feel like brass anymore. That I shocked simply because I needed to stabilize that core. But 99% of these belt plates that come out, if all the detail is there, why would you want to get rid of that patina? Not everything is a candidate for electrolysis.
Well, and maybe that was just a bad choice of word on my part. I just mean quite simply a larger item rather than a button or a coin.
No, I wasn't referring to Josh. No, nothing to that.
Right.
I was just a coin. I just didn't want anybody to make a mistake, and it may not be a mistake to them, but just how I prefer my plates is just about how I find them.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. But that really is the key, is you've got to keep the iodine out. You've got to keep it slow, low amperage, and it'll take a while. I've noticed with the N series, it actually cooks a little slower than even some of them that I've tried to make myself, which is great.
Right.
I'm getting one. I looked them up a while ago. I am ordering mine.
We developed a DC EMAG coil, which it took years to figure out how to make a DC circuit, make an electromagnet work. So when we finally got it to work, the side effects were awesome. It hindered the voltage very, very little, hindered the amperage quite a bit, and allows me to put 18 volts, 22 volts through an N series and still keep a really nice amperage going and very smooth. It creates resistance, which allows for a nice smooth flow of electricity, not popping through and spiking.
And that's the thing. You don't want anything arcing. You don't want that electricity spiking.
Man,
no, absolutely. Because I don't care if it's silver, brass, gold. If you arc to a coin, the voltage and amperage it takes to create an arc will burn a chunk out of your coin. Absolutely.
All right, Frank.
Take a chunk out.
I got one more question for you.
Sure.
Just got this on my phone. I know you have a lock with a brass key thing on it we talked about before. But let's say you have, let's just use a horseshoe, for example, and a brass item. They asked me, is it okay to put them both in the tank at the same time?
Here's the thing. Always remember this, that you're 90% of the time, if you cook a brass item, you're going to discolor it. If that brass item isn't showing bubbling, if it doesn't feel like tin, if it didn't get real light, then the brass is solid. It takes a long time to break down the molecular structure of brass. Older brass can break down because it's not true brass like we have today. There's impurities in it. There's more tin in it. There may be more copper in it. So you have to.
It's a different metal.
Yeah, you have to judge each piece as you go. You can put them in together, absolutely. Just know that you may have to polish that brass item later if you want to get a color out of it. And if it doesn't look like it's breaking down, if it just looks discolored out of the ground and it's still heavy and solid, don't cook it. There's no reason to cook it.
Man, I'm telling you, this show is awesome. How can you not like Beyond Sight and Sound, man? And Mr. Frank here, with the knowledge he's got, good gravy. I knew he knew what he was talking about, but now that I've heard him, I don't feel very up to par on my electrolysis skills.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
I am now. I will be after tonight.
I'm sure this will be an archive that listeners will refer back to, as well as the YouTube videos and the information on the Detect America website, as far as the manuals and the how-tos and all that.
We're
I think he's just getting warmed up for the next show.
For a challenge to decipher. So if anybody who has a project out there has something that they want to either cook or know if they can cook or know how to cook it, if we haven't already done it, by all means, send me the information, because it's something that we'll put together and try and come up with a formula for. We've been working on nickels for 20-some years. The closest that we've got nickels right now is ultra low voltage with a nickel silver catalyst, and that's 25% of the time maybe it comes out okay. Nickels are my problem child. They're my thorn.
Well, if they're your thorn, I'm not messing with them.
And if I have to give any other tidbit of info out there, just because certain coins are called copper strikes, they're not all the same. I've got guys that cook. I have guys in my group, guys that I know on the page that are really, really good at cooking coppers and bringing coppers back to life and bringing the proper color. And they try to apply the same thing. I've done it a million times. Try to apply the same technique to a half cent, which theoretically is a copper strike. And 65-70% of the time it's not going to work, because half cents are really a bronze coin, not a copper coin, despite what the numismatic people will tell you.
A lot of people don't know that, and they just learn it.
You've got to, like I said, unless your half cent is in dire need, if it's flaking away and falling apart, that's really the only time to cook it. Soak that sucker in olive oil. Olive oil is a magic chemical. It has rejuvenating effects. It actually has a natural electrolytic effect. Coins that aren't in dire need of stabilization can be stabilized with olive oil if you leave it there long enough. It has a tendency to want to take the color of a coin, back to its original. I don't know why. Don't ask me why. I won't tell you. But it does. I have an abundance of olive oil sitting here.
Now,
Man,
is
let
it
me tell you-
possible to plate a nickel with another metal?
There you go.
Here's the problem. Nickel is soft. I've done higher voltages, higher amperages on nickels with silver, and I get, if you do a nickel in electrolysis just the normal old way, they'll turn red, they'll turn gray, blackish on you. With nickels that I've used higher voltages and silver as my conductive metal, I've gotten a silver color, but I can never get the shine. I can never get it to where I can polish it. It's always this silvery, grayish, dull finish on it.
Right. Now, what about a war nickel?
War nickels you'll have more luck with a war nickel because of the silver content.
Right.
Because it doesn't react as bad. But you're still talking, with a war nickel, you're probably 50-50. You may get 5 times out of 10 where it's going to be exactly what you want, but you're going to get 5 times out of 10 where it's going to turn this grayish, dull, rough color. Nickels, right now with nickels, if it's a nickel I want to keep in my collection, I'm cleaning it gently with a brush and soapy water, a nylon brush, and that's it. It gets put away. Because I'm not 100%, and I don't know if we'll ever be 100% with them.
Good deal. Good deal.
Good point.
That's kind of what I do. If I find, like I found it, a few officer staff buttons, for example, that's got the dome on it, the 2-piece. Mm-hmm. Those are very fragile. They got the stars around the edge. You got to really be careful with those. With those, I soap and water them, hot water, and for the most part, that's it. They're just such a unique button. I haven't reached the point of, okay, I'm going to put that in there.
Well, I've had the museum or two, and generally because they're thin-walled, we're very careful with them, but I've had a museum or two want buttons brought back to life for display, and really the only time I'll do it is for display. One of the videos we have out there will walk you through the process of cooking a button, bringing it back to life. We got a South Carolina button we've done. We've got a general staff button we've done.
And that South Carolina button turned out very nice.
Yeah, it came out great.
Yes.
We'll show you how to gold plate without using gold, using copper and silver. And the advantage to using copper and silver is a rigid metal. And when you plate it properly, you're actually adding strength to that dome. Now, is it 100% original? No, there was no silver on that button. But it's a beautiful display piece.
Right.
And I think another thing, too, we should probably explain is, sometimes people say, oh my God, I can't believe you cleaned a coin. You've just destroyed the value. But in a lot of cases with the relics, like the buttons, sometimes you actually improve the value.
So I tell
Good
everyone,
point, Josh.
If you don't think these museums are cooking these coins, I've been with these. One of the processes they use is boiling them, and boil a dome button for too long and watch what happens. Pop.
It does.
Right.
So, I mean, and that's what we're bringing back into the fold, is showing them how non-intrusive, how gentle this process can be, as long as you are trained with it, learn the proper way of doing it. And slowly but surely, and we've got a couple of big colleges under our belt that are, loving what they're producing now, using electrolysis the way that we've kind of developed over the past 20 years.
That's nice. And you know what, guys? Listen, if you're into this electrolysis or you're already doing it, I can tell you now you've learned something tonight. Just knowing that the listeners that are using or want to use electrolysis want to preserve history. So if you're wanting to preserve that history, watch these videos, PDF files, whatever they got to offer, and get it down to a patent so you can really have your display looking good.
And there's also the Detect America Electrolysis Facebook.
Which
You know what? I was just looking at that a while ago.
Yeah, and a lot of guys are experimenting with it, and they're posting their stuff. And know what? We'll either tell them they got it perfect, or we'll try and help them tweak what they're doing. If you've experimented with electrolysis, guys, and the most common mistake people do is they'll overcook it, or they'll cook it with the wrong metal, and they'll get their coppers or whatever will come out kind of an orangish color. There's videos on how to bring that back. We can tell you how to bring that color back to it. Scenarios where you may not be able to ever bring it back. A lot of people, for whatever reason, went through a phase where everybody wanted to soak their coins in lemon juice. Don't soak your coins in lemon juice.
That's acid. Acid.
And the problem with that is, if you soaked it in lemon juice and you get it that orangish color, you can only bring it back 50% of the time. It's not always a guarantee it's going to get, we can bring back the color on it. But, you know what, go on the pages, ask us the questions. If we don't know it, we're either going to experiment until we come up with an answer, or we're going to ask the guys who do know.
Yeah, don't be afraid to ask questions, because listen, I thought I knew, enough, and I did not at all.
I'm sure there's been people that have learned quite a bit so far.
Well, the thing about it is I'm really cautious anyway, because of my passion for the relics and the history, and I've got like several in here that look like, I need to get them done, because if the longer you wait, you're messing up.
Right. And
whether you're inside or outside, matter of fact.
Speaking of getting things done.
Uh-oh.
Speed dial.
Oh, boy.
You ready to write some names, Kenny?
Man, let's do it.
All right, folks, we have a in-series electrolysis unit up for grabs, courtesy of Detect America and Beyond Sight and Sound. We'll open up the phone lines, take 10 callers, 419-549-5744, and we'll see what happens. While you're at it, like and rate the show. Who do we have?
Somebody's going to win
Tar
it.
Heel Diggin'.
Tar Heel Diggin' is number 1.
Got him.
We'll see if we get anybody else in. Oh, we've got another one coming in. Who do we have?
Coming.
203. Who do we have?
It's Dave Wise.
Dave Wise.
Yes, sir. Mr.
Number
Dave.
2.
How's it going, you guys?
All right.
Dave, I
good,
told you,
man.
you get a free one. All it's going to cost you is one of those Washington buttons.
Well, yeah.
We've
That's
got
free.
Swansea in as number 3.
All right, Swans.
Let's see here. Home Finder, I believe.
Mr.
Correct
Homefinder, appreciate you, brother.
We've got him in as number 4.
Hey, Josh, it's Chris.
And
All right,
we've got
Mr.
Chris
Chris Ingle.
Ingle in as number 5.
Brother Chris.
Brother Kenny.
203 area code.
Yes, this is Ludlow 6.
Ludlow 6. Looks like we've got Mr. Bill Marsh in.
Yeah,
That's
that's me.
not
Ohio Relic
surprising.
Hunter.
All right.
Ohio Relic Hunter, man.
Great show, Frank, and guys, we'll catch you later.
Okay, 706. Who do we have?
Cool beans.
Okay, trying to make sure we've got everybody here so far. My screen is filling up. Okay, everybody accounted for. 847 area code.
This is Brigham Stryker. How you guys doing this evening?
Oh,
All
man,
right,
how
Craig.
you doing, man?
Craig, how you doing, Craig?
Okay,
I am doing fantastic.
where does that put
Nice.
us, Kenny?
That's number 9.
Okay, let's see.
Thank you.
Let's see here. Who do we have? Who do we have? We've got one more coming through here. 519 area code. Who do we have?
Hi there, it's Allison Walker, Pink Power Alley from Ontario, Canada.
Oh, Alice.
Wow.
All right, and I do believe she makes number 10. Is that correct?
Yeah.
That is correct.
All right,
Thanks kindly. Good luck, guys.
I'm shutting the other
Man.
calls down.
Outstanding. Outstanding. All you had to do was listen to the show.
That's right. Okay, so we've got our names written down.
Throw them in the mixer, Josh.
All right, we're going over to Random Org, and we are going to generate, trying to get my button to click. We've got number 5.
Mr. Chris Ingle is a proud owner of an N-Series. Wow.
Well,
That is outstanding, brother Chris. We'll have some conversations on that thing,
oh yeah, absolutely.
Ooh, congratulations, brother Chris. This is outstanding that we have a show. We have great guests on like Frank covering these topics. We get giveaways. Man, I tell you what, I have missed being on the show. This is awesome.
Yes, definitely. I'd say we got quite a good response there. I was trying to get to as many of the calls as we could. We were only allowing 10 callers. We got our 10. Sorry for those who didn't get in, but
Well,
there's
they
always
will
other
be others.
giveaways and other prizes to win. It just never seems to stop. We've got something here. We figured
And if
we'd
we
try-
don't, I'll dig something up out of a box in here, man.
We figured we'd try to keep everything short tonight, But we do want to give Frank an opportunity to let everyone know where they can find him, the show, the group, the YouTube channel, all of that happy stuff. And while he's doing that, if the listeners have enjoyed the show, make sure and rate the channel, show us the love. You know, the support does help keep the giveaways going. So if you'd like to let people know where they can find you, Frank.
Sure, guys. We are our biggest group, obviously, is on Facebook. We are Detect America. We have several groups on Detect America. We have a beach group. We have the Detect America Electrolysis page. We have a buy sell trade page, and we have the DA Live page. The DA Live page coordinates directly with our show on Friday nights. On live stream, it's on live stream, it's on Roku, it's on 1,000 Mics, it's on Windstream. You can always check us out in the archives, but it's Detect America Live, Friday nights at 8:30 on live stream is the main portal. And Tuesday nights, tonight, right after Josh's show, we do our cute little, fun little video show. We do videos that were posted on the pages through the course of the week. We do some funny videos, we do some goofy cats, and we give away prizes every Tuesday night. So right after Josh is done with us, we'll do the TNL show, which is on live stream, and the link is over on Detect America.
And I do believe
Detect-America.com is our webpage. That's where our store is. That's where any new information or any critical stuff that the masses need to know, we post to the page.
And I do believe that I also posted a link for WNL on
WNL, that's right. Not TNL, we're a day late.
Right, it's the double shot for listeners tonight. Double shot Wednesday. And I do believe I did post the link for live stream in the Detect America Beyond Sight and Sound Electrolysis event page.
Yes, I'm going to watch some of that stuff after here, and I'm going to order me an electrolysis. I just got to do it.
And don't forget to mention you heard about it on Beyond Sight and Sound. Get that 20% discount. That is definitely very cool of you. Thank you.
PM me at DA Frank Lopergolo. That's my PM, and just tell me if you want to order electrolysis unit. You heard about it on Josh's show, Beyond Sight and Sound, and we'll kick in 20% off the top.
Well, you can't beat that. Very kind of you. And we certainly, like I said, we appreciate you taking the time to sit down and discuss what could be a confusing subject to some, but I'm sure that we have enlightened many tonight and hopefully left them wanting to know more. So
me included.
When it comes to this topic, the one thing I can do is talk.
Well, you know what, Frank? When you talk, you're knowledgeable. Knowledge is power. We're here to preserve the history. It's what this show is for. You have been an outstanding guest.
Thank you very much.
We want to have you back, man. You are a true preserver of history.
Anytime.
Yes, and a great job for those who, I'm not sure how you wouldn't have heard of the Detect America show, but, you know, for those who haven't, drop in, check it out. Check out WNL tonight. Usually some very good videos, and you'll get a laugh out of the funny dad antics.
What it's all about. Good detective videos, funny detective videos. If you're detecting, send it to us.
All right, one more thing, Josh. Dirt Bandit 33 will be having some videos coming out here in the near future. I appreciate all that check it out. You guys know that I love preserving this history that some would rather let stay in the ground for whatever reason, but not this cat. So let's just get out there and let's dig it all, baby.
That's right. And speaking of videos, keep an eye on my timeline and Beyond Sight and Sound group. Saturday at the latest. I will be sharing a link for a video and would definitely appreciate the support of people spreading it around.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, for everyone else, I'm sure Frank's got to get the WNL set. Maybe he already has. So for everyone else, we always appreciate the listeners dropping by. It sounds like we've had quite a few people drop in tonight. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. Rate the channel. We got to roll, though, so, check us out next week. We'll see what happens.
Don't have too much fun on the beach, Frank.
At 6 a.m. tomorrow morning, I'll be there.